In a country seeking to elevate her citizens from poverty, citizens who have made efforts to develop themselves are seemingly being fought by the government. This has been one of the popular perceptions drawn from recent demolitions going on in Lagos State, Nigeria. The question now is the government actually victimizing these property owners, or they are trying to save lives and better them? My name is Favor Aya, and I'm your host for today's podcast on the Vigilant. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we take a look at what has been trending for a few days now, and we'll be looking at the demolitions, with the topic proper being demolitions in Lagos, with emphasis on seeking clarity and the way forward. I'll be doing this with Mr. Odiawa AI, not artificial intelligence, sorry. So he has been a citizen and a resident rather of Lagos for quite a long time. I will call him an indigene if I'm not mistaken. And also I have with me Miss Elizabeth Fidelis, a passionate and well-meaning Nigerian who has been bothered about these demolitions and sympathizing with the victims, if I can say that. So we'll go over to what we have today, and thank you very much as you listen to the end. So you will agree with me that these demolitions that have been going on, I think since August or before then, has been a thing of contention among Nigerians, especially on social media platforms. So this exact action has been entangled in a very big web of controversy. Some are saying that it is an acting victimization program. Some are saying that it is an intra-party fight or something, while others are saying that it's the action of land grabbers. So I would like my guest, Mr. Odiawa AI, to actually tell us his mind towards the recent demolition. Do you believe in all this that the people are claiming, or do you have something else that you think might be the reason for these demolitions going on in Lagos State?
Thank you very much, Favor, for having me on the show. You see, when it comes to this issue of demolition of properties in Lagos State, it's a situation whereby resources and assets have been lost, money gone down the drain. You can even picture the fact that even some of those houses are quite expensive, running into hundreds of millions of naira, such that a particular dock or the gate itself is enough to either buy land somewhere or buy someone's house rent.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned something about victimization. Fine, there might be some atom of truth in it. At the same time, we should not forget that there's also propaganda. That's another thing. Another question we should also look at is every state, every government owns the land. Now the question is, those particular properties, what is the documentation backing those properties? That's another question.
Okay.
Every government or successive governments definitely will know its territory and know where the canals meet and know, okay, yes, it's even stipulated in any constitution that when you're even building your house, you should keep a few meters away. It's written down there in the constitution. But these days, you see there, people practically build beside the bridges. People practically even build beside the canals, which is not even meant to be. If you go to Venice now, you will see even the canals are even waterways, at least to lessen the traffic in Italy. All those kind of stuff. But here it's been abused or misinterpreted. So if Lagos is coming towards that, is following that particular channel, it might not necessarily be that it's a case of victimization, because recent reports has it that it's not only the Igbos who are actually being attacked or victimized here.
Yeah.
Other non-speaking Igbo indigenes have also received their own fair share. Why? Because probably I want to suspect they have not paid appropriate attention to land documentation. Now, when it comes to land documentation, now you have what you call the official gazette from any state, which actually stipulates the lands or government officials or anything by the government. So you now come to land excision. Now, was that land actually willed to indigenes based on free will from the government? That's another question. If it wasn't, then they had every right to take over such property and count that property, if there's a structure on it, as illegal. Because similar thing is also going on in Abuja as we speak.
Even in another state.
So it's not only Lagos. So people who are coming up with this case of victimization are just generating false sympathy or empathy for people to reason along the lines in which they are reasoning. So if you haven't got your land documentation copies right, it becomes an issue. The government will definitely clamp down on you. Not only Lagos State, it could be any other state in any other country. Thank you.
Okay, that's very nice of you, and I believe, like I said in the beginning of this very podcast, that the reason for this is for us to get clarity. Let's know the actual thing, what is actually happening. These claims are what people like, the things that are being said on the social media platforms. Are they true, or is it just an allegation per se? So because we have heard a lot of people have posted so many things. So the reason for the podcast is to clarify us, for us to know the actual truth. Like he said, it's not about ethnic victimization, even though it might look like it. I don't believe it's a part of it. It might look like ethnic victimization, but it might not be so, because like the Yorubas, we are like affected as much as others from the other ethnic group. So I want to clarify us here that this might not be what we are thinking, because people have called it so many things. So I would like to know what Miss Elizabeth think about this. Do you believe in what Mr. Odewa have said, or you came to the so-called propaganda?
Well, I think that was last month. I did a cover on this. I did some research on this, and prior to this, I think the issue of demolition is not really a new thing in Nigeria, right? And even in different countries, when development is meant to occur, things like this happen. We see it severally. So now coming down to this demolition that started, that was around July, August, right? They went to like different places were actually demolished. In Lekki, some areas, houses were brought down and all that. So now people coming to say that it had to do with ethnic something, maybe because Igbo people have been affected, so they want to push them out of Lagos and all that. Now, my question is, why are Nigerians so quick to drop comments? We have seen this recurring severally in Nigeria. When things happen like this, people don't even wait to do research. They are quick to just comment, and it is wrong, because when you keep spreading false information, it is not good, because you're distorting the truth. Now, people claiming that it's about ethnic something, and they are actually trying to push Igbo people out. All right. Now, those people claiming this, are they aware that people were affected? They are also Yoruba people, because in one of the videos, a Yoruba woman was crying. She spoke Yoruba, and they're telling me that, so if they go to a house, they'll inquire that this house belongs to an Igbo person. Let's bring it down. I mean, it is unrealistic for Nigerians, okay? Because we are meant to be people who should verify fact before people, and those people doing these things actually. I think propaganda has a way, because those people are just trying to incite people. I mean, there are people who did not really support this government, all right, and all that. Maybe their party candidate did not win, and so because they create a kind of group or page on Twitter and all that, and when things happen like this, they try to narrow it down to it's Igbo people that have been affected. So several Igbo people who are not really educated and who can't verify facts now come to the comment section, and it feels like it creates this kind of burning anger in them. So I just believe a lot of people saying this should actually verify facts. And coming to what Mr. Ojewa said, he talked about, now I have serious there's serious contemplation about this demolition to go. If I'm being asked, I feel that what was the Lagos state government doing when those lands or those canals they claimed that property shouldn't be built were being sold? Because like he said, Every land in a state belongs to the government.
Yes.
They are land developers. We have omoniles, we have bales.
Yes.
So for every land that is being bought, somebody sold that land. You can't buy a land in Lagos, because I know that a land in Lagos, Ogun State, without them presenting you with some certificate or document. And in fact, you need to see the omoniles. Even before you start building anything, you lay your foundation. They will come to ask for money. So what was happening? Did the government not keep track of all this? Why is it that it's until people spend millions and power it into their houses, then all of a sudden the government wakes up and say, oh, we want to stop flood, because flood has been an issue in Nigeria for years. So why is it that right now people have mounted buildings where they have poured in millions and all of a sudden it's being brought down? Me, from the perspective of a citizen, I would tell me that you're trying to victimize me. You're trying to be brutal to me. You're not even thinking about compensating me. So that's the way I see it. But then on the way of the government, this issue is more than meets the eyes. There are things that need to be investigated.
Yes. So I would take this as a case of a job not being well done. The necessary or responsible organizations that are supposed to oversee these things, they are not doing the right job. And this will take me back to when I was doing this research. I came over to this very interview that a particular man, like I think he held with one of the newspapers. So he was bemoaning what happened and said that it like when he wanted to start his project, that's his building, that he I think he got the land or the property through some estate developers. And when he wanted to start everything, he had to go to those, I think, to the Ministry of Development. And when he got to their office, they couldn't tell him that, oh, no, you are not supposed to build here, you're not supposed to acquire this land. And that's what motivated him, because there was no complaint. So he got motivated to do what he wanted to do, meaning that I'm doing the right thing since this particular body didn't say anything wrong. So I'm beginning to think, is it that there is a kind of background work, some corrupt practices that are being done, businesses going on between the responsible bodies and the real estate developers? Because one other shocking thing happened when this started. Calls were being made to these developers that sold the property to the property owners, and none of them picked their call, meaning that they knew what they have done. So my question now is, people, you say, like Mr. Odiawa said, he said that it's a problem of permits. They are not getting the right permits. So what of this man that felt that, oh, I've got the permit, then I should go on and do my thing? Is it now the fault of the citizen? Because I could say, okay, to an extent he was ignorant, but it wasn't totally his fault, because some people, some responsible body made him to believe that he's doing the right thing, but at the end of the day, he found himself at the wrong side. So what do we say about government officials that are joining hands with scammers that call themselves real estate developers to encourage people to build on the wrong side and on top of the canals? So what do you have to say? Because to me, the government is not doing, I've not seen any of them penalized or being sanctioned or anything. I've not heard of anything like that. Mr. Odiawa, please, I would like to know your mind towards this very issue.
Well, from what you said, we will not deny the fact that over the years, the system from past administrations have been really, really filthy, corrupt, and plagued with debasement. So the corruption doesn't just end with government alone. It also goes, even in the church, there's corruption. You have people looting the offering and tithe box. So what we are talking about here is that even every actor in the real estate industry has been corrupt one way or the other, taking advantage of people to siphon funds. That is what you should look at. So sensitization now comes into play, whereby you who is going to purchase a land, how well informed are you before purchasing the land? Because if you end up going to court, the court will still tell you ignorance is no excuse before the law. you ought to have been armed with real estate law and facts before you ended up with, because the laws are already on ground. The only thing is that they keep being amended to suit the time, because change is constant. So now you will not compare when there were the years whereby 504, 404 was raining. The roads were quite narrow because only few people had cars, compared to now, where you could even measure the 504 and 505. Now the width is even larger than the Toyota Camry. Nigerians call it muscle. It's wider now, so the lanes need to be increased. And who owns those lanes? The government. So for them to expand those lanes, that is where the houses need to be shifted inside. That's why earlier on they would have told you leave some meters before you start erecting. Now, even when you get to a corner piece, the same thing applies. You also need to leave some measurable amount of space. So it still boils down to ignorance not being an excuse in the sight of the law. You need to be armed with facts before you now begin to engage in anything you need to do, because even people are out there to just take care of their, okay, now let's narrow it down now to when you need to even get an accommodation. What are the first things you ask for? How constant is the light? How constant is water supply? Yes. And what is the security situation in that axis? If these three things are not taken care of, definitely the caretaker or agent has nothing to sell to the prospective tenant. So these are questions you need to ask first of all. I'm not trying to blame people who are not even armed with all those facts, but you cannot, there's nothing new under the sun. We've heard of people who have been scammed, and this news has traveled over time. And if this news has traveled over time, you therefore owes yourself that responsibility to make sure that before you take any step, you make sure that even up to the identity of that realtor is actually verified and certified, because once he doesn't provide all those documents, even up to the C of O, you are the one who actually shot yourself in the foot. That's why, and even there's no how any government will say to not compensate its citizens, because that would be very selfish on their own part. The government will definitely compensate them. Now, it is the people who are in charge of disbursing those funds to take care of the compensation that's now actually are the bad eggs, the corrupt ones. Because no government brought in by any party will want to definitely spoil his own track record. Why? Because there needs to be continuity from their own administration. So it's the blame game. It doesn't just end at the doorstep of government alone. Those in the real estate industry are also part of it. Why? Because of the millions they want to get. Lagos State is a very large hub when it comes to real estate. Yes. You meet the average suit and tie person and say, I'm into real estate. Why? Because of the commissions they are going to get, particularly in that Lekki axis. So it is the corruption doesn't just end with government alone. Those who are even in charge of the real estate business are also to blame, to receive their fair share of the blame. So government doesn't just have to receive the fair share of the blame alone. The compensation aspect is like those who are living under the bridge. The government, why? Because they need, the place is blocked, and those blockades will now cause traffic and people die anyhow in all those kind of places. So, and again, those destruction, if you look at it closely now, coming to I think Alaba International Market, it's close to Lagos State University where I finished from. That place now over time had become a hub for all sorts of ill vices, from robbery, kidnappings, and killings. So when you have a cluster and human beings are so much that there's this congestion, you cannot see even the next person in front of you. You have to be walking sideways. You can't even walk straight. So it doesn't just boil down to the financial aspect of the demolition of properties. We also need to make sure that we have an aerial view concerning whatever we are even approaching. For those who are setting up propaganda, it's normal for them to do so. Why? Because they haven't got foresight. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, like I told you guys, Mr. Odiawa has lived in Lagos, and Lagos have lived through him as well. So you can get why he's been so, like, he has explained all these things so well. So I'll go over to the next thing, which is we know that this demolition, it didn't start today. Over the years, we've been hearing they demolish these. Why are you doing it? They will say that these houses are standing in waterways. They are sitting on top of the canals. It's just like when landlords will say, please, the tenants, you have to move out of the house. We have a renovation to do. And you come back to that house 5 years' time, and it's still the same. So it makes people to think, why did the landlord do that, whereas you had nothing, you are not ready to start your work. So because over the years they have been doing this demolition, but then if rain comes now, if flood, now still Lagos go dey flooded. So it is making me believe that they are just demolition, but then the canals, the canals are still not, like, they're still not opening those ways, because believe me, they are demolishing how many houses in what's the name of this area? I think up to 677 houses. Believe me, after that this demolition, if the flood should come, it will still enter where it's supposed to enter, meaning that the government is just doing the demolition work, but the drilling of the canal is not going on. So I will actually be on the side of the citizen if they say that it is a kind of a selfish thing that the government is doing, because you are removing them out of the way, but you are not now doing your work. What do you have to say about that, Miss Elizabeth?
Okay, so on the government demolishing illegal structures, Favor, when questions like this have been asked,
it
is actually very right to ask the questions in the right way, because these properties are illegal. Because when you say properties, you're trying to say, oh, these citizens are right. I actually sympathize with those people whose property have been were demolished, or those who are actually going to lose their property. But then this, as a person, I meet a real estate agent or a land developer, I want to buy a land. Why would somebody who is sensible want to purchase a land close to a canal? I know in Nigeria or in Lagos per se, people are always hungry to buy land. When people just want to go into landed property. Like Mr. Ojawa said, you enter Lagos and see somebody who is dressed in a kind of weird way, and it tells you that he's into real estate. So they take you to one place, and most of those lands are faulty. And the problem with we as Nigerians is that we are not sensitized. So we don't have this knowledge about land. We don't know how to investigate. Oh, this document they're giving me, is it the real document? This C of O, is it this? If you notice, those people that actually had their property demolished, when the Minister of Environmental and Works was talking, Tokumbo Wahab, he was saying that they will not compensate any of them, because they had issued these people years back before this demolition. They told them that, vacate these places. Where you guys are actually building right now is not a place you should build. Now, why would somebody actually acquire a property close to a canal? Now, didn't your mind tell you that anytime it rains in Lekki, that area is flooded because you are actually obstructing? So on those people's part, they actually were faulting the law. They should have known that this area is actually restricted. People who go to swampy areas and they keep on filling sand and building houses. When rain falls, you should be ready for what happens. Now, I have to say that because coming down to the question you just asked now. Now, if this question you just asked me, the truth is that a lot of people in Lagos who are buying property, buying lands and doing all these things and saying the government is victimizing them and all that, I agree they are victims, because those people lose their property and the government is not even saying, for this thing we are damaging, we are sorry, because you were not aware, you were naive, or you fell into the hands of the wrong people and they sold this land to you. That is something else that even the government needs to really trash out. The government really needs to dig deep. These people that sold the land, I feel they should be brought to justice, because if they are not, then I will stand on the side of the citizens that truly the government is trying to harm them. Okay, now the government has taken this bold step that, we want to deflood Lagos. So houses that have been built in places that should not be built will be removed. And the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, he said that they want to build a siphoning station. So that they are demolishing this house so that they can extend the canalways. We are waiting to see these canalways, because according to him, these canalways, or this canal, like you said, the siphoning station should be ready by January, February. So by February, if we are not seeing this, then we can boldly stand and say and call out the Lagos State government that why demolish people's house if everything was just a means of deceiving us?
Yes.
Maybe you just want to come out and just tell us sweet words. At the end of the day, you don't end up doing this. And in previous demolition and everything, I think there was one that happened in 2011 in Delta State, right, where the Delta State is always flooded.
Yes.
Right, they actually have that distance. So currently, as at August, they started demolishing some houses in Sapele, Warri, and like that, because they want to build canals. The truth is, I don't really know, maybe because I've not really investigated so far, but I'm not aware of any functioning canals per se. Like, if there are really canals in Lagos, like government is demolition and everything, like, let's see it. Let's see these things that the government claim they are doing.
Exactly.
Let me know that my house got demolished because of they want to deflood my area. Don't tell me you are demolishing my house, you won't compensate me, and in 3 years time I'm not seeing all this. So I feel that if the government is doing this, we are not going to see anything. But by January or February, if we are not seeing a siphoning station, then it would be right to say the Lagos state government is actually victimizing people and taking their property under the disguise of
it would be like
construction.
an irony, it would be a pitiable thing that after demolition that the flood will still come and people will get affected. Or
maybe this is a case whereby the government want to pocket money, because when things like this come in, want to happen, definitely funds will be disbursed to them. Then we have enough money. So are they not going to keep this money?
Still away the happiness of people, because a lot of people we are crying, and these are not just houses. I will call them mansions, because just the gate alone is 1 million. So it's actually a sad thing. And if we are actually going to key into demolition, I believe that the government should do what they propose. So just like Miss Elizabeth said, we are waiting for January, February for the Lagos state government to actually give us what they have proposed. So coming again, I'm coming to the work that these agencies are doing. We have the FHA, we have the Lagos State Physical Planning Development Authority, and I think that these people only understood their work as demolition. Aside demolition, they don't do any other thing. They are just waiting for you to come and build, and they will now mark your house, and from there either you settle them or you stop what you are doing. Because when I was doing this research, I was looking for something about their organization, and I couldn't find a good site where they have enlightened people that you have to come to us. There's no like publicity at all. I think they believe their only work is to demolish, whereas you can like strategize and expand and enlighten people. You can like take opportunities in the media and educate the public that if you want to build a house, if you want to develop your property, that this is who you have to go to, this is the process you have to go to, instead of waiting for people to now build their house to the point of completion and you now come and mark their house. It will actually be painful that you are building and you are almost completing, and they now come and mark your house. I think that's why some people are strong-headed and they are stubborn and go on to build their houses. So enough being said about the clarity part. We have been clarified that whatever claims that have been laid on the Lagos state government, whether it be victimization or intra-party battle or the case of land grabbers, that is just a mere propaganda. And we have seen that the problem of people is that they don't go through the right ways. They are not getting the proper permit to go on to develop those lands, and at the end of the day they become doomed. And also we have seen the scandal of real estate developers and those also that are working in government. So the next thing for us to look at is the way forward. For me, I don't actually think that the demolition of houses is the only way to go about these things. I'm looking at what if we have a win-win solution whereby you don't demolish this house, but in another way these people are going to contribute to the drilling of those canals and the parting of those waterways. I'm seeking like your opinions. Do you think that demolition is the only thing? Is there not a way the government can leave demolition or and penalize those people in order to drill other canals elsewhere, or like channel it to another point? Do you understand what I'm saying? So, Mr. Odiawa, I would like you to say something on that. We are looking at a win-win solution. What could be done? In which way could this be done that will we evade and demolition and still get the result that we are seeking for?
Thank you. Well, if you look at it, the canals which are well laid out in Lagos, let me put it that way, were set up by the white man even before 1960. Because at the time we started fighting for independence as at before we actually got that independence in 1959, and then the documentation was given in 1960. The papers officially handed to Nigerians in 1960, 1st of October. Now, before this independence, those canals had been laid out and they've been functioning perfectly well, not until the whole chaos started setting up in Lagos, starting with the pure water or ice water nylons, let's call it, before pure water even came on board. Now, when people finish eating, whether it's your gala or your plastic bottle or your Coke, they throw it out the window. And when they throw it out in the window, if you remember, there used to be, before this PSP or Loma came on board, they had to be what they used to call kole kole. Now, kole kole will go over and hand over. Kole kole is actually, of course, is a local parlance in which we use in describing people that carry out trash. They will actually dump the refuse into the canal, which was actually what was happening in Abuja. If you had gone to Abuja 2 or 3 years ago, similar thing was beginning to happen in Abuja. So, demolition of structures might not necessarily be the way forward. Another thing is, how do we curb the excesses of the indecency amongst people? That's another thing. Ordinarily, you cannot take in trash and dump in your room or in your living room. No matter how locked the place is, flies will still find their way in and you become uncomfortable. Yes. Then you now go discharging it in public, and then it blocks the canal where water is meant to flow freely. They used to say water doesn't have enemy. If water hits this bottle, it will turn this way, and when it turns this way, it will affect another thing. Yes. That's why fellas say water no get enemy. So there's no how you want to say you want to fight water. Water will fight back. Anyhow which way, water must always fight back. Now, water is always in the canal there. You on your own part, you're emptying your trash there. If you go to Obalende, as you're descending from it, you will see colors of disposable packs under the bridge there. You will see people defecating there. All those things are adding up to the soil there, and it's bad. If you get to Aguda, the same thing. So now when rain falls, the water won't have any other way other than to, you'll practically be worrying with water. So if the government can sensitize them through the agencies, and the agencies on their own part, they have some, let's use LASTMA for instance. You can be in traffic now, whether you've offended or not, the LASTMA can just jump out and you have to slam your brake. By the time you slam your brake, maybe the vehicle from behind might spoil your bumper. Yes. I don't know whether a pedestrian wants to cross, and then you cripple the pedestrian's leg. So it's not a case of you on your own part. You need to sensitize the agencies who are actually responsible for these places so they are accountable. Then the individuals on their own part, we're talking about the canals or drainages now, because the waters will pass through the drainages into the canal. Now, individuals or residents who are just in their houses there, you just dispose nylon. It's a normal thing. It's a normal thing to some Lagosians who are not sensitized, like brushing their teeth. Once they are done with water, they just fling it on the road. Now, if you get to Akwa Ibom or Cross River, it was a fine during the likes of Donald Duke and Victor Atta. Even up till now, you dump any trash on the road, they will practically call you back. You can be arrested for that. So if that can be implemented, at least it will curb or checkmate the indecency which might cause flooding during rainy season. Then they now say, okay, yes, we need to remove some houses beside the canal which are actually causing flooding. Ordinarily, people build bridges over canals.
So this is to tell us that in as much as we can't escape demolition, there are other factors that are adding up to the flooding in Lagos. It's not just the houses that are being built on top of the canals. Lagos people no one make water flow at all. So the houses are there, the refuse dumps are there to block the canals. I don't.
It's not just blocking the canals. How do they recycle? Like now, you get that most people are running now.
Yeah.
This bottled water here. If Nestle is discharging bottled water, if you take the bottle back to Nestle or you take it to a particular company for recycling, you earn a revenue. So it's a referral and a win-win situation.
Recycling is not even a thing in Nigeria. How?
It is.
So I'm not.
I mean, it's a business for making.
It's a business.
But like people are not
money.
taking it serious.
There are much. When you go to Gondo area in Lagos, you will see a lot of them. Like you even see there is a particular place that is dedicated to it. It's being stacked, so they actually do.
So okay, so we have seen now that it's not for property. It's not the work of property owners alone to secure these canals for us. You as a Lagos resident living your day-to-day life, disposing refuse and all that, you have a long way to go. You have something to contribute to this flooding. So don't go and be blaming the people that are built on your canals. As you are throwing those papers and whatever, the nylons and everything, you are adding to whatever that is going on. So we have seen that this matter, we no fit help am. It has to be the demolition for us to move forward. So okay, I think we will be coming to the end of this podcast, but I would love to leave us with these snippets on what to do if you are to develop your property in Lagos. So obtaining your land ownership, the next thing is to secure a building plan approval. It is one of the important things. You don't just get a land and you start building, because by the next day if they come now, you go cry, and the people on internet spaces will just sympathize with you, but none of them will give you a kobo. So this is what to do. When you have got your land, the next thing is to go and get a building plan approval. So and the first step is starting a construction project. The first step is going to get a development permit from the Lagos State government, which is handled by the Lagos State Physical Planning and Development Authority. I don't know if you heard it very well. You have to go to the Lagos State Physical Planning and Development Authority to get your development permit, so that we keep away all this emotional blackmail and crying and you getting people to sympathize with you. See, Nigerians are going through a lot, and for you to think that people will come over to carry your burden for you, I don't think it will work in today's society. So it's left for you to do what's right for yourself, because I don't know how someone will build a house of 300 million or more than, and you can't go through these processes. At the end of the day, everything will be brought down. It's such a painful thing. I was talking to someone, I was asking, why would somebody build a house worth millions and you cannot just go and get this permit that might take you like a month or two? And the person's response was the same reason someone would buy an expensive car. I would prefer that road safety should be pursuing you on the road. So it's a kind of Nigerian thing. They neglect a lot of things. At the end of the day, you have to pay a big deal for it. So my fellow Nigerians, in as much as this demolition going on is not a propaganda, I also want us, property owners, developers, everybody, please do the right thing. The organizations that are handling these things should do something about educating people and enlightening them, and also getting to your work at the right time. At that point that you see them digging or trying to, that's the very point that you have to say no, you don't have to do this, and you see to it that they don't do it. Somebody cannot complete a house and you now come and draw with your red marker. It doesn't make sense. If I'm the one, I'll still continue because I've put in a lot of work in that. So it's a general responsibility. The government is involved, the citizens are involved, every single person is involved in this case of demolition. And with this, I come to the end of this podcast, and I appreciate your audience and your listening to this podcast. Thank you, and see you next time on this podcast, The Vigilant. I'm still your host, Favor Aya. Bye.